everybody. I'm Brittany Lewis, a reporter here at Forbes. Joining me now is my colleague, staff writer Zach Everson. Zach, thanks so much for joining me.
Thanks for bringing me back, Brittany.
Zach, you have some reporting on Trump media and their latest moves. I want to read your headline. Quote, Trump media rolls out ETFs that could benefit from the president's policies. And Trump media, as we know, is Truth Social's parent company, and they launched what are described as politically themed ETFs. So to start off the conversation, I want to know exactly what this means, but first give us a boilerplate definition. What is an exchange-traded fund or an ETF?
It works very similar to a mutual fund, except where it's kind of like compiles a portfolio, and then investors would buy into that portfolio. The ones that are probably most famous track indexes. There's the S&P 500 ETF, which tracks that. One of the appeals to investors is that a lot of these ETFs will have low fees, because if it's automated, if it's tracking an index, you don't need to pay some money manager to sit there and come up with a strategy and move money around. But there are some that are also individually managed. One of the main differences is, unlike a mutual fund, which you can only really cash out after trading is done for the day, they will, at the end of the day, they will see what their portfolio is worth, divide it by the number of shares, adjust it a little bit, and then you will get whatever your cut is if you were to sell. ETFs can be traded throughout the day. So they have been very popular with investors, especially over the last 10 to 15 years.
And Trump media is touting these America First themed funds. How exactly are they themed this way?
They are going to invest in defense, energy, real estate in red states only, American icons, and next frontiers. And to make sure that they are appropriately America First, investment decisions will be vetted by an outside nonprofit group, the 1792 Exchange, to make sure that they do align with Trump's values. So, it's a very interesting change from his first term, where before he came in, his lawyer famously said at Trump Tower that, he wants to make sure that there's no way people might think he's trying to profit off the presidency. And now here you've got his company, of which he owns 114.7 million shares of, is launching America First ETFs that are targeting sectors of which, as president, Donald Trump has massive influence over.
I want to read that fact again. It's almost like you had my notes, which you don't, but you highlight in your reporting these two facts. President Trump owns 114.7 million shares of Trump media and has sweeping influence over the defense, energy, and real estate sectors. So it seems like there could be conflicts of interest here. What are they, and who's concerned?
There are, in the layman's phrase, yes, there are conflicts of interest. In the technical phrase, as interpreted in the law, the president and the vice president are exempted from conflicts of interest. They don't have to divest like other top government officials do. They can continue to own these things. They continue to trade. Now, Donald Trump gave kind of some lip service to it last time. He put his stuff in a revocable trust. It's still in the revocable trust, but he can withdraw money from it at any time. He's the sole donor. He's the sole beneficiary. And he's got another guy named Donald Trump, in this case, Jr., who's the trustee. So it's window dressing. Now, last time he did sell a lot of his securities. This time he hasn't bothered with that. If you reach out to government watchdogs, they're kind of horrified by this. I spoke to somebody at Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington, which is a kind of left-leaning progressive group, although they have flagged people on both sides of the aisle. But they've done a really good job of tracking Trump's conflicts. And, this one really stands out for them. But is anything going to happen about this? Probably not.
What about the White House? I know government watchdogs you're saying are horrified. Is the White House saying anything?
Yeah, they're appalled. They are just kidding. They're totally cool with it. There's no such thing as a conflict of interest. It's basically the same quote we get back every time from White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt, or one of her deputies. The president has no conflicts of interest. He's doing everything in the best interest of the American people. The people already knew he was a businessman, and they reelected him anyways. His money's in a trust. You can just basically dial that they're going to give you a few of those things back each time.
And Trump media, as I said at the top of this conversation, is Truth Social's parent company. But I want to talk about this pivot we've seen Trump media make going into the crypto space. Why are we seeing it?
Yeah, Trump, I was about to call it Trump crypto instead of Trump media. probably works. So Trump Media at this point is like a crypto holding company with a money losing social media side hustle. They launched True Social. It hasn't really done well. The stock's done okay comparatively, based on what its earnings have been, but it hasn't really picked up. It's been a great place to go to see Donald Trump's latest tweets. I ever post. I was looking at it yesterday, and in between each post, there's an ad. I mean, they're really milking that. But it hasn't brought in a lot of money. I think it lost about $20 million last quarter. So, in a way to be profitable, what they've done is kind of taken a page out of a company called MicroStrategy's book, and they've invested heavily in Bitcoin and crypto. And they sold more private shares, used the money to buy this crypto treasury, and the hopes are that investors who may not be able to own crypto products directly, maybe it's a mutual fund and it violates their bylaws, maybe it's a pension fund with a similar issue. Instead of them buying it directly, they will then invest in the company. This is MicroStrategy is the one that kind of pioneered this. In this case, True Social. Trump Media is hoping you do it in Trump Media. You will buy into them based on the hope that their Bitcoin treasury will appreciate. So this value of the company will appreciate. So your stock price will appreciate. So that's largely what it is right now, is this Bitcoin crypto holding company with the social media side hustle. And then they've got these ETFs. Now, they launched 3 of them earlier this year that are crypto focused. The 5 that they just launched, they didn't say exactly what assets they're going to hold. It stands to reason that it won't all be crypto, especially if one of them is investing in real estate investment trusts. But we don't know much more than that. They didn't say exactly whether they'd be actively managed or passively managed. They didn't say, what criteria they would have beyond just making sure it aligned with Trump's values. So there's a lot to be learned. It's not going to hit the market, they don't think, though, until like towards the end of the year, maybe early next year. So there's some time for them to put out, the prospectus and the filings that'll give us some details on that.
And as you pointed out, Trump Media did lose around $20 million last quarter. Is this going all in on crypto? Is that financially fruitful for them?
We'll have to see what their next quarterly reports are. The stock price has been hovering around the same. It hasn't seemed to have too much of a difference. I think I've seen it typically between like mid-teens to low 20s of late. The crypto strategy works out so well for MicroStrategy because it was the first one to do this. Right now, you've got all these other companies that are following suit, and whether people are going to be drawn to Trump Media for that or not, I don't know. I mean, it certainly stands out with the name. And they obviously, it can't hurt to have the president as your majority stockholder there and the person the company is named after. But we'll have to see. It's going to be a couple more months till we see the next quarterly report.
And is this ETF news impacting President Trump's bottom line yet? Is it too early to tell? Because as you noted, he has over 114 million shares of Trump Media.
Yeah, it's too early to tell. The way that the companies that run ETFs do it is that it's typically they take a fee off the top. Now, Trump Media here is working with a group called Yorkville America, and they are the ones who are actually like advising and managing it. So we don't know the structure of the deal. We don't know if this is just like a flat out marketing deal, if they're getting a cut, if there's going to be both. Now, the way this would benefit the president, though, is anything that rises the value of the company brings up the value of his shares on the market. So that would be, the better this company does, the better the paper value, anyways, of his shares. Now, he hasn't sold any yet, but he certainly can do that at any time.
Well, Zach, thank you so much for your reporting. I appreciate it. Until our next conversation.
My pleasure.